They expelled her for saving a life, revoked her scholarship for stopping a brain bleed, and called her sacrifice unprofessional conduct. But what Dean Whitfield didn't know was that the dying woman Talia, pulled from a pharmacy sidewalk, had a son with unlimited resources and a mother who refused to let compassion be punished. When the helicopter landed in Talia's yard 2 days after her expulsion, it wasn't carrying a thank you check. It was carrying a declaration of war against every institution that makes students choose between helping others and saving themselves. High risk admits from certain zip codes. Dean Harold Whitfield barely looked up from his prepared notes. Navy suit immaculate, words delivered with the clinical precision of a man conducting business, not judging a life. Students who should be grateful they were even given a chance. Talia Brooks, 21, still smelling of antiseptic and cheap diner grease from her overnight shift, blood faintly staining the creases beneath her fingernails, tried to push the paramedic statement across the polished conference table. The neurosurgeon's note confirming critical head trauma, proof that she'd stabilized a dying woman on a sidewalk. Whitfield slid the papers back without reading them. This university rewards responsibility, Miss Brooks. His eyes remained on his folder, not street theatrics. Behind him, the projector displayed a frozen frame. Talia in blood-spattered blue scrubs, kneeling over a white woman outside the pharmacy, gloved hands pressed to the stranger's skull. The image that should have proven her heroism now served as evidence of her crime. The university lawyer, 40s pinstripe suit, expression carved from stone, sat to Whitfield's left, silent and watchful. 2 faculty members occupied chairs along the wall, staring at the table as if eye contact might implicate them. Whitfield read from a printed list, each word a small detonation. Unprofessional conduct, abandonment of academic responsibility, disruption to university operations. Talia's throat tightened. Dean Whitfield, I was stabilizing a patient with an intracranial. Your scholarship, he continued, signing a form without looking at her, is revoked. Your clinical placement is terminated, and I am recommending immediate expulsion, effective today. For years. Honor roll every semester. Late nights hunched over pharmacology textbooks in fluorescent-lit diners between shifts. Living on ramen and willpower, surviving exhaustion and racism and the crushing weight of being the first in her family to make it this far. Erased with the flick of a pen. This meeting is over. Talia sat frozen, watching Whitfield slide the expulsion recommendation into a manila folder and close it with the finality of a casket lid. Nobody spoke for her. Nobody asked her side. Nobody cared. 48 hours later, the sound of rotor blades shook the cracked windows of Talia Brooks' housing project. Neighbors poured into the courtyard, kids shouting, pointing at the sky, older residents crossing themselves as trash whipped through the air in violent spirals. A sleek black helicopter marked with the Keaton Foundation logo descended between leaning brick buildings that had never seen anything like it, rotor wash scattering debris like a small storm. The aircraft settled onto cracked pavement, engines winding down to a deep mechanical hum. The door opened. Lorraine Keaton stepped out in a yellow coat, gray streaking through her hair, a faint surgical bandage still visible along her hairline. Security flanked her on both sides, 2 men in dark suits, earpieces glinting. A woman in tailored business attire carried a leather portfolio, expression focused and severe. Lorraine scanned the windows, her gaze sharp and relentless, until she found Talia staring down from the second floor, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Their eyes met, and Lorraine Keaton smiled. Not the polite, grateful smile of a rescued stranger, but the cold, calculated smile of someone about to go to war. She was not there to say thank you. She was there to burn down everything that tried to punish the girl who saved her life. 2 days earlier, Thursday, 7:12 a.m. Talia's phone alarm screamed from the milk crate beside her secondhand mattress, the sound cutting through the frigid basement apartment like a blade. Pharmacology final, 8 a.m. Late entry not permitted. 37 minutes. She threw off the thin blanket and grabbed yesterday's blue scrubs from the floor. Couldn't afford laundry this week. couldn't afford much of anything. The apartment was freezing, peeling paint curling off the walls in long strips, a printout of her tuition bill taped above her bed like a countdown to disaster. An overdue rent notice sat tucked under the door, red ink screaming final notice. Her phone's banking app showed $340.18. One paycheck from eviction, two paychecks from dropping out, three paychecks from the life her father never got to live. On her desk sat a photograph in a drugstore frame. 12-year-old Talia sitting beside her father in his hospital bed, his hand thin and weak in hers. He delayed care for months, couldn't afford it, couldn't risk the bills, couldn't imagine asking for help. And by the time he finally went to the ER, the infection had already spread to his bloodstream. He died 3 days later. Talia touched the photo, throat tight. "I'm going to make it, Daddy. Today, I'm going to make it." She grabbed her backpack, checked her phone, landlord's text, "Talia, I need rent by Friday or I'm filing eviction," and sprinted into the November cold. Market Street was packed with morning commuters, exhaust clouds rising from idling cars, the sidewalk a river of people moving too fast to notice each other. The bus stop was 2 blocks away. She could see Route 21 approaching, right on time. If she caught it, she'd make the exam with 5 minutes to spare. Pharmacology, the final. If she passed, she'd move into clinicals next semester. One step closer to her nursing license. One step closer to becoming the kind of nurse who never let patients wait too long, suffer too long, die too long because they couldn't afford to ask for help. Her mind buzzed with drug interactions and dosage calculations. Beta blockers contraindicated with asthma. NSAIDs increase bleeding risk. Check renal function before ACE inhibitors, as she cut down the side street to save 3 minutes. Then she heard it, the sickening crack of skull against brick. The crash of a dropped phone shattering on pavement. Talia turned the corner and froze. The woman lay crumpled against the pharmacy wall, 50s, white, expensive yellow coat already dark with blood pooling from her head. Her iPhone lay shattered beside her, screen splintered into a spiderweb of glass. Her hands twitched. People walked past. A businessman in a gray suit glanced, hesitated, took a step toward her, then kept walking, phone to his ear, pretending he hadn't seen. College students didn't even slow down, earbuds in, eyes on their screens. A teenager filmed from across the street, phone raised, recording instead of helping. Nobody stopped. The woman's lips moved, barely audible. "Help!" Talia checked her phone. 7:34 a.m. 6 minutes until the bus. 26 minutes until her exam. Her entire future balanced on a single test. Graduation, license, escape from poverty, the promise she'd made at her father's funeral. And this stranger was bleeding out on a sidewalk while the world walked by and filmed her dying. Talia dropped her backpack. She fell to her knees beside the woman, hands moving through the assessment on autopilot. Airway clear, breathing shallow, circulation weak. Pulse thready at the carotid. Pupils unequal, left blown wider than right. Skin cold, clammy, lips pale. Brain bleed. Shock symptoms. Intracranial hemorrhage. Minutes mattered. Seconds mattered. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" The woman's eyes fluttered, unfocused. Talia pulled her phone from her pocket, hands shaking but voice steady. "This is Talia Brooks, nursing student. Unresponsive female, approximately 50. Head trauma with active bleeding. Unequal pupils. Shock symptoms. Possible intracranial hemorrhage. Market and 15th, northwest corner. Ambulance is 4 minutes out." For minutes. In a brain bleed, for minutes could mean life or death. Talia barked orders at the frozen bystanders. "You," she pointed at the teenager with the phone. "Call this number back and repeat exactly what I say. You." A pharmacy clerk staring from the doorway. "Get clean gauze and a blanket. Now." They scrambled to obey. The woman's eyes fluttered open, confused and terrified. "Am meeting. Daniel. What's your name?" Talia pressed gauze against the wound, blood seeping warm and wet between her fingers, soaking into her scrubs. Lorraine. Lorraine, I'm Talia. I'm not leaving you." Her phone lit up on the pavement beside her, blood splatter across the screen. 7:38 a.m. The bus pulled up to the stop, half a block away. Doors hissed open. Passengers glanced toward the commotion. A girl kneeling in blood, an ambulance approaching in the distance, but nobody got off to help. Talia didn't look. The doors closed. The bus drove away, carrying her future with it. Before we dive into what happened when that helicopter landed, I need to ask you something. If you're someone who believes compassion shouldn't cost you everything, hit that subscribe button right now. Because if this story gets buried by the algorithm and the next person facing Talia's choice never sees it, we've failed them. So subscribe, drop a comment telling me what time it is where you're watching from, and let's make sure this message reaches everyone who needs to hear it. Now, let me tell you what happened 2 days earlier when Talia's alarm screamed at 7:12 a.m. Ma'am, stay with me. Don't try to move. Lorraine's eyes rolled, unfocused, as she tried to lift her head. Panic flashed across her face. The primal terror of waking disoriented in pain, not knowing where she was or what had happened. My son, I have to, meeting Daniel. Talia placed both hands on either side of Lorraine's head, stabilizing her neck. I need you to stay very still. You hit your head. Moving could make it worse. Can't remember. That's okay. Just breathe. Help is coming. The teenager Talia had ordered to call 911 hovered nearby. Phone pressed to his ear, repeating her instructions to the dispatcher. The pharmacy clerk returned with an armful of supplies, gauze packets, a Mylar emergency blanket, antiseptic wipes spilling onto the pavement. Good, Talia said, grabbing the blanket and draping it over Lorraine's torso. Now I need you to stand at the corner and wave down the ambulance. Make sure they see us. Lorraine's lips had taken on a bluish tint. Her breathing was shallow, rapid. Talia checked her pulse again, still thready, still weak. The blood flow from the head wound had slowed under pressure, but the real danger was inside. Swelling brain tissue, bleeding between skull and membrane, pressure building with every passing second. Lorraine, can you tell me what day it is? A long pause. Thursday. Good. That's right. Do you know where you are? Confusion clouded Lorraine's eyes. I was pharmacy picking up Daniel's prescription. Her hand suddenly shot up, fingers clawing at Talia's arm with surprising strength. My purse. Where's my purse? Daniel needs. It's right here. Talia grabbed the leather bag that had fallen a few feet away, placed it beside Lorraine. See? It's safe. Everything's safe. Just keep your head still. Lorraine's grip loosened. Her eyes drifted closed. Hey, Lorraine, eyes open. Stay with me. A bystander in business attire stepped closer, finally compelled to help. Should we prop her head up? I saw on TV. No, Talia said sharply. Spinal precaution. We don't move her until EMS arrives. Talia's phone buzzed on the pavement beside her knee, the screen lighting up with notifications. 7:41 a.m. Destiny. Where are you? Destiny. Exam starts in 19 minutes. Destiny. Talia, answer me. 19 minutes. If she left now, sprinted to the bus stop, caught the next Route 21, ran across campus, she could still make it. Still take the exam. Still save her scholarship, her degree, her escape from poverty. All she had to do was walk away. Let this stranger bleed. Let someone else deal with it. Let the ambulance arrive in 4 minutes, or 5, or 6, and hope Lorraine survived the wait. Talia looked at the woman's pale face, at the blood seeping through gauze, at the uneven pupils that screamed intracranial bleed, and made her choice. I'm not leaving you. The sirens grew louder, cutting through morning traffic. The ambulance pulled up at 7:47 a.m., lights flashing, 2 paramedics jumping out before the vehicle had fully stopped. The lead medic, name tag Red Rodriguez, knelt beside Talia, assessing the scene with quick, professional efficiency. Mid-40s, graying temples, eyes that had seen 1,000 emergencies and knew how to read them fast. What do we got? Unresponsive female, approximately 50, Talia said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline crashing through her system. Head trauma with active bleeding. Unequal pupils. Left is blown. Weak, thready pulse. Shallow respirations. Shock symptoms. Happened about 8 minutes ago, based on blood coagulation. I've maintained cervical spine precaution and monitored vitals. Rodriguez looked at Talia, really looked, taking in the blood-soaked scrubs, the gloved hands still maintaining pressure, the calm precision in her eyes that spoke of training, not panic. You a student? Nursing. Final year. He nodded, impressed. You did good. Really good. He turned to his partner. C-collar, backboard. Give me vitals and prep for transport. They moved with choreographed efficiency. Collar around Lorraine's neck, backboard slid beneath her, straps securing her in place. Rodriguez checked pupils with a penlight, took blood pressure, listened to heart and lung sounds. BP's dropping. Pupils non reactive. Probable subdural hematoma. He looked at Talia as they lifted the gurney. You save her life. Seriously. Another 10 minutes, and we'd be calling the coroner. The ambulance doors slammed shut. Sirens wailed. And just like that, Lorraine was gone, leaving Talia alone on the sidewalk with blood drying on her hands and the wreckage of her future scattered around her. 7:54 a.m. Talia pulled off her gloves with shaking hands and checked her phone. 6 minutes until the exam. 6 minutes to cross 12 city blocks. Impossible. But she ran anyway. She grabbed her backpack and sprinted toward campus, lungs burning, legs pumping, blood-stiffened scrubs chafing against her skin. People stared as she flew past. A young black woman covered in blood, running like her life depended on it, but Talia didn't care. Maybe if she explained, maybe if she showed them the blood, the paramedics' praise, the proof that she'd done something right. Maybe they'd let her in. 8:09 a.m. Harrison Hall, 4th floor, room 402. Talia arrived breathless, side cramping, sweat and blood mingling on her skin. Through the narrow window in the door, she could see her classmates bent over exam papers, pencils scratching, Professor Reyes at the front desk grading assignments with methodical precision. Talia knocked. Reyes looked up, saw Talia, checked her watch with deliberate slowness. Looked back down. Talia knocked louder, palm flat against the door. Reyes stood, walked to the door, opened it exactly 2 inches, just wide enough for her voice to carry, but her body to block entry. Miss Brooks, you're late. Professor Reyes, there was an emergency. A woman collapsed outside the pharmacy. Head trauma, possible brain bleed. I had to stabilize her until the paramedics. The exam began at 8 o'clock. Reyes' voice was flat, mechanical, rehearsed. It is now 8:10. University policy states late entry is not permitted under any circumstances. You have received a 0 for this assessment. But I was performing CPR. That was your choice, Miss Brooks. Policy is policy. Your grade stands. Please, if I could just explain. This conversation is over. Leave, or I will call campus security. The door closed. Talia stood in the empty hallway, staring at the blood still caked under her fingernails, and felt something inside her shatter. 12:47 p.m. Back at the apartment, Talia's roommate Destiny was waiting, laptop open, anxiety radiating off her in waves. What the hell happened? You didn't answer your phone, you missed the exam. Destiny stopped mid-sentence, finally seeing the blood. Jesus Christ, Talia, are you hurt? It's not mine. Talia walked to the sink and began scrubbing her hands, watching pink water swirl down the drain. She explained in a flat, emotionless voice, the woman, the blood, the exam, the door closing in her face. Destiny listened, disbelief hardening into fury. That's insane. You were saving someone's life. We appeal. Right now. We call the dean, A notification chimed from Talia's laptop on the kitchen table. Subject, urgent, Office of Academic Affairs. Talia dried her hands and opened the email, Destiny reading over her shoulder. Dear Miss Brooks, this letter serves as official notification that your absence from the Pharmacology 401 final examination on November 18, 2025, has resulted in a course grade of F. Your cumulative GPA has fallen to 2.76, below the minimum 3.0 required for presidential scholarship retention. Effective immediately, your scholarship, $28,000 per academic year, is revoked. Outstanding balance due, $28,000. Payment or appeal must be submitted within 48 hours to avoid withdrawal from the university. Sincerely, Office of Academic Affairs. Destiny grabbed Talia's arm. Okay, we appeal. We get documentation from the hospital, from the paramedics. With what leverage? Talia's voice was hollow. I'm a broke black girl on scholarship, Destiny. They don't care. Then we make them care. But Talia was already pulling up her banking app, staring at the numbers that refused to add up. Checking. $340.18. She grabbed a pen and a receipt from the counter, started writing. Tuition shortfall, $28,000. Rent overdue, $850. Utilities, $120. Groceries, $60 per week equals $240 per month. She did the math 3 times, hoping the numbers would change. They didn't. Destiny sat beside her, reading the calculations upside down, her expression shifting from determination to desperation. What about your grandmother? Could she? She's an assisted living on a fixed income. She can barely cover her own bills. Talia's hand shook. I've got nothing. No family money, no credit cards, no. Another email notification. Subject, mandatory disciplinary hearing. Respond within 24 hours. Talia opened it, dread pooling in her stomach. Dear Miss Brooks, you are hereby summoned to a mandatory disciplinary hearing regarding allegations of unprofessional conduct, abandonment of academic responsibility, and violation of university attendance policy. Date, November 20th, 2025. Time, 9 a.m. Location, Administration Building, Dean's Conference Room. Failure to attend will result in automatic expulsion. Dean Harold Whitfield, Office of Student Affairs. Talia stared at the screen, the words blurring through tears she refused to let fall. For years, straight A's, double shifts, ramen and willpower and the promise she'd made at her father's funeral. All of it collapsing because she'd chosen to stop for a stranger bleeding on a sidewalk. Destiny wrapped her arms around Talia's shoulders. We're going to fight this. You hear me? We're going to fight. But Talia wasn't sure there was anything left to fight for. Talia walked out of the administration building in a daze, clutching a manila folder stuffed with official letters. Expulsion recommendation, scholarship revocation, formal notice of disciplinary action, each document a nail in the coffin of her future. The morning sun was too bright, the quad too loud with students laughing between classes, the world moving forward as if hers hadn't just imploded. A group of nursing students stood near the library steps, heads bent over their phones. One of them looked up as Talia passed, recognition flickering across her face. She whispered to her friends. They all turned to stare. Talia kept walking. At the campus coffee shop, 2 pre-med students she vaguely recognized from shared lecture halls went silent as she approached the condiment station. One grabbed her friend's arm and steered her toward the exit, as if proximity to Talia might infect them with bad luck, or worse, association with someone the university had marked for destruction. Contagious trouble, Talia thought bitterly. That's what I am now. By the time she reached the bus stop, her phone had accumulated 17 new notifications, most from numbers she didn't recognize, a few from classmates she hadn't spoken to in months, all suddenly interested in her story now that she'd become a cautionary tale. She silenced the phone and stared at the pavement, waiting for Route 21 to carry her away from the campus that no longer wanted her. 5:47 p.m. Rosie's Diner, 7th Street. Talia tied her apron with mechanical precision, muscle memory guiding her hands while her mind remained numb. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and fryer grease, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like trapped insects. She'd worked here for 3 years, double shifts on weekends, late nights after classes, every hour she could squeeze between studying and survival. The tips kept her afloat. Barely. Table 6 needs waters. Her manager called for the kitchen window. Talia grabbed a tray and moved through the familiar choreography of service, taking orders, delivering plates, refilling coffee cups with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. A customer at table 3, middle-aged white man, business casual, laptop open beside his BLT, looked up as she set down his check. Talia. He squinted at her name tag, then at her face. Wait, are you? He grabbed his phone, scrolled rapidly, then turned the screen toward her. Holy shit, it is you. The video was grainy, filmed from across the street on a shaking phone camera. But the image was unmistakable. Talia in blood-soaked scrubs, kneeling on the sidewalk, hands pressed to Lorraine's head wound, face focused and calm while chaos swirled around her. The caption read, "Nursing student saves woman's life, then gets punished for missing exam." This is like 3 million views, the customer said, scrolling. People are going crazy over this. Talia stared at the screen, watching herself make the choice that had destroyed everything. The comment section was a war zone. At Justice Warrior 44, this is what heroes look like. The university should be ashamed. At Nurse Life 2024, she did exactly what we're trained to do. Punishing her is insane. At Truth Bomb 88, attention seeker. She could have called 911 and gone to her exam. This is just performative. At Real Talk 101, typical. Make a scene, play victim, cry racism when you face consequences for your choices. At Healthcare Hero, the system failed her. This is why good people leave medicine. Talia handed the phone back, throat tight. That's me. The customer shook his head, sliding a $50 bill across the table. Keep the change. What they're doing to you is bullshit. After he left, Talia locked herself in the diner's single-stall bathroom and stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror. Exhausted eyes, hair pulled back in a fraying bun. The faint smell of antiseptic still clinging to her skin despite 3 showers. Viral hero, institutional enemy. Both simultaneously, neither helping her pay rent. Meanwhile, St. Catherine's Hospital recovery ward. Lorraine Keaton woke slowly, swimming up through layers of medication fog. The hospital room came into focus in pieces. White ceiling tiles, the steady beep of monitors, and 4-line taped to her left arm, and a dull ache radiating from her skull. Mrs. Keaton, a nurse appeared at her bedside. Young, Latina, scrubs patterned with cartoon cats. Welcome back. You've been asleep for a while. How long? About 18 hours. You had surgery to relieve pressure from the subdural hematoma. Dr. Nguyen will be by soon to explain everything, but you're doing really well. Lorraine touched the bandage wrapped around her head, memory returning in fragments. The pharmacy, dizziness, falling, a young woman's voice cutting through the panic. I'm not leaving you. The girl, Lorraine said urgently. The student who helped me. Is she? Did she? The nurse's expression shifted, something like anger flickering beneath professional composure. Your angel in blue scrubs? She pulled up a chair, voice dropping. Yeah, I heard about her. She got expelled. What? She missed an exam to save your life. University revoked her scholarship, kicked her out. It's all over social media. People are furious, but the school isn't backing down. Lorraine sat up too fast, pain spiking through her skull. The nurse gently pressed her back against the pillows. Easy, Mrs. Keaton. You need to rest. But Lorraine was already reaching for her phone on the bedside table, mind sharp and focused despite the pain. I need names. The student's name. The dean's name. Everything. The nurse hesitated, then pulled out her own phone. Her name's Talia Brooks. And trust me, half the nursing community already wants to burn that university down for what they did to her. 8:23 p.m. Talia's apartment. Talia sat cross-legged on the futon, laptop open, staring at the eviction notice that had been slipped under her door while she was at work. Final notice. Rent overdue. $850. Pay by Wednesday, November 24th, or vacate premises. Her phone rang. Grandma Loretta's photo lit up the screen. A picture from 5 years ago, before the assisted living facility, before the arthritis bent her hands into claws. Talia almost didn't answer. Couldn't bear to lie again. But she pressed accept anyway. Baby girl, I've been thinking about you all day. Tell me, how'd that big exam go? Talia's throat closed. She stared at the eviction notice, at the scholarship revocation letter still open on her laptop, at the impossible math she'd calculated a dozen times. It went fine, Grandma. I knew it. I just knew it. Your mama's up there smiling, baby. My grandbaby about to be a nurse. Tears burned behind Talia's eyes. Yeah, Grandma. You sound tired, honey. You taking care of yourself? I am okay. Just long day. Well, you get some rest. I'm so proud of you, baby. So proud. Love you, Grandma. Love you more. The call ended. Talia set the phone down and pressed her palms against her eyes, refusing to cry, refusing to break, even as everything inside her screamed that this wasn't fair, wasn't right, wasn't the way the world was supposed to work. Destiny emerged from her bedroom, took one look at Talia's face, and sat beside her without a word. The bursar's office called 3 times today, Talia said quietly. They want the 28,000 by Monday, or they're officially withdrawing me. We'll figure it out. There's nothing to figure out. Talia grabbed a crumpled takeout menu from a coffee table and started writing on the back, numbers spilling across the paper in increasingly desperate calculations. Drop out. Work full-time at the diner. $12 per hour times 40 hours equals $480 per week. Minus rent, $850 per month. Utilities, $120. Food. The numbers didn't work. They never worked. Maybe I could get a second job. Or a loan. Or, Talia, stop. I can't stop. If I stop, it means it's over. It means I threw away 4 years for nothing. You didn't throw away anything. You saved someone's life. And now I can't save my own. 11:47 p.m. Talia lay on the futon, staring at the water-stained ceiling, calculating and recalculating scenarios that all ended the same way. Broke, evicted, degree less, dreams dead at 21. Maybe she'd never been meant to escape. Maybe girls like her, poor, black, from neighborhoods the university called high-risk zip codes, were always destined to be pulled back down, no matter how hard they climbed. Her phone buzzed on the floor beside her. Unknown number. Probably a debt collector. Or another reporter asking for an interview she didn't have the energy to give. She almost ignored it. But something, instinct, desperation, the faint pulse of hope she couldn't quite kill, made her open the message. Unknown, look outside. Talia frowned, reading it twice. Destiny, did you? The sound hit her before she finished the sentence. Rhythmic. Mechanical. Growing louder. Whoop, 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 whoop. Destiny bolted upright from her bed. What the hell is that? Talia walked to the window and pulled back the threadbare curtain. The courtyard was chaos. Neighbors pouring out of doorways, kids pointing at the sky, Mrs. Rodriguez clutching her rosary, trash lifting from the ground in violent spirals, and descending through the November night, rotor blades cutting through darkness, spotlights illuminating cracked pavement. A sleek black helicopter, gold lettering gleaming along its side. Keaton Foundation. Talia's heart stopped. The aircraft touched down, engines winding to a low growl, doors sliding open. And stepping out in a yellow coat, bandage still visible along her hairline, fury and determination carved into every line of her face. Lorraine Keaton. Their eyes met across the courtyard, and Talia knew, with absolute certainty, that everything was about to change. The rotor wash hit first, a violent wind that sent trash spiraling into the air, plastic bags lifting like ghosts, newspapers flattening against chain-link fences. The helicopter descended with mechanical precision, spotlights cutting through the November darkness, illuminating cracked pavement and peeling brick buildings that had never seen anything like this. Kids poured out of doorways, shouting and pointing at the sky. Mrs. Rodriguez clutched her rosary, lips moving in rapid prayer. Mr. Chun from 3B held his phone up, filming. A teenager on a skateboard stood frozen, mouth open, watching a machine worth more than every apartment in the complex combined settle on asphalt that hadn't been repaved in 15 years. The Keaton Foundation logo gleamed in gold lettering along the helicopter's black fuselage. Elegant, expensive, utterly out of place. The engine wound down to a deep mechanical hum. The door slid open. Lorraine Keaton stepped out first, yellow coat whipping in the residual wind, hair streaked with gray catching the spotlights. The surgical bandage along her hairline was still visible, a stark reminder of how close she'd come to dying on a sidewalk 3 days ago. Two men in dark suits emerged behind her. Security, earpieces glinting, scanning the crowd with professional vigilance. A woman in a tailored navy blazer followed, carrying a leather portfolio like a weapon, expression focused and severe. Lorraine scanned the windows, methodical and determined, until her gaze locked on the second floor. Talia stood frozen at her window, backlit by the apartment's cheap lamp, eyes wide with disbelief. Their gazes met across the courtyard. Lorraine's mouth curved into a small, fierce smile, and she started walking toward Talia's building, heels clicking against pavement, security flanking her like an honor guard. Talia stumbled back from the window. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" Destiny grabbed her arm. "Is that the woman I saved? She's coming here, to our apartment." Talia looked around wildly. At the peeling paint, the thrift store furniture held together with duct tape, the dishes piled in the sink, the eviction notice still lying on the coffee table. Panic clawed up her throat. "I can't. She can't see this." A knock echoed through the apartment. Firm, authoritative. Destiny shot Talia a look. "You have to open it." Talia smoothed her hands down her jeans, suddenly aware that she was wearing yesterday's shirt and hadn't showered since her shift. She walked to the door on shaking legs and opened it. Lorraine Keaton stood in the dim hallway, security positioned behind her at a respectful distance, the lawyer beside her with the portfolio tucked under one arm. Up close, Lorraine was smaller than Talia remembered, maybe 5'5" in heels, but she radiated a presence that filled the narrow space. Her eyes were sharp, assessing but not cold, warm brown with flecks of gold, the same eyes that had stared up at Talia from the pavement while blood pooled around them. "Talia Brooks?" Talia's voice came out barely above a whisper. "Yes. May we come in?" Talia stepped aside, mortified as Lorraine entered the cramped apartment, taking in everything. The water-stained ceiling, the futon with its sagging cushions, the milk crate nightstand, the pharmacology textbook still open on the floor, the eviction notice prominently displayed. But Lorraine's expression didn't shift to judgment or pity. She just observed, processing, understanding more than Talia wanted her to see. Her gaze lingered on the photograph taped to the wall, 12-year-old Talia and her father in the hospital bed, his hand wrapped around hers. "You have a beautiful smile," Lorraine said softly, nodding at the photo. "In that picture, it's genuine." Talia's throat tightened. "That's my dad. He died when I was 12. Lorraine turned, and for a moment something vulnerable flickered across her face. Recognition, shared grief, the weight of loss that never quite went away. "I'm sorry." The lawyer, 40s, sharp features, calculating eyes, stepped forward. "Mrs. Keaton, we should—" Lorraine raised a hand. "Give us a moment, James." The security detail positioned themselves outside the apartment door. The lawyer retreated to the corner, pulling out a tablet, but clearly listening. Destiny hovered near the kitchen, uncertain whether to stay or leave. Lorraine turned back to Talia. "I'm Lorraine Keaton, though I suspect you've already figured that out. I saw the helicopter logo. My son, Jasper, founded the Keaton Foundation. We do various things: investments, technology development, philanthropy." She paused. "But I'm not here because of any of that. I'm here because 3 days ago, you stopped on your way to the most important exam of your life, knelt in blood on a dirty sidewalk, and saved me." Talia's hands twisted together. "I just did what any nurse would. Except you're not a nurse yet. And now you might never be, because of what you did for me." The words hung in the air. "I learned about the expulsion," Lorraine continued. "About the scholarship revocation. About the disciplinary hearing where they treated you like a criminal instead of a hero." "How did you?" "A nurse at the hospital told me. Then I made some calls. Spoke with Dean Whitfield myself." Lorraine's expression hardened. "He called what you did a dramatic rescue story. Said the university can't make exceptions for attention-seeking behavior." Talia flinched. Attention-seeking. As if she'd orchestrated a woman's brain hemorrhage for publicity. Lorraine reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a check. "I want to help. This will cover." "No." Talia took a step back, hands up. "I didn't help you for money. I know that. I don't want charity." "Neither do I." Lorraine folded the check and returned it to her pocket, which is why I'm not offering it. The lawyer, James, stepped forward, opening his portfolio. Miss Brooks, we've been reviewing your case. Your appeal was denied in 42 seconds. Dean Whitfield never reviewed the paramedic statement or the hospital documentation. He pulled out printed documents, laying them on the coffee table beside the eviction notice. Furthermore, when Mrs. Keaton called the university to inquire about your situation, Whitfield dismissed her concerns and suggested she not encourage this sort of behavior in the future. His exact words. Rage flashed across Lorraine's face at the memory. She looked at Talia directly. I didn't come here to write you a check and ease my conscience. I came here to propose something bigger. What? We go public. We file formal complaints. We request 5 years of disciplinary data to see if there's a pattern. If other students, particularly students of color, have been denied accommodations while wealthier students get quiet exceptions. We bring in media, data analysts, lawyers. Talia's heart hammered. That's war, Lorraine finished. I know, but I can't let this stand. They punished you for saving my life. If I stay silent, if I let them erase you, then what does that say about the value we place on compassion, on sacrifice? She stepped closer, voice dropping. But I need your permission. I need you to participate, to tell your story, to stand up publicly. And I won't lie to you. It will be ugly. They'll fight back. They'll smear you, question your motives, make your life hell. Talia looked at the eviction notice, at her bank balance scrawled on the back of a takeout menu, at the photograph of her father, the man who died because he couldn't afford to ask for help. What if it backfires? What if I get blackballed from every nursing program in the country? That's a real risk, James said bluntly. We can't guarantee a positive outcome, but we can guarantee a fight. Talia's mind raced. If she did this, she'd be burning bridges, making herself a target, potentially destroying any chance of quietly transferring to another school and finishing her degree in obscurity. But if she didn't, if she took Lorraine's money, disappeared, let the university's narrative stand, then the next student in her position would face the same impossible choice. And the next, and the next. She thought about the father who delayed care until it was too late, about the promise she'd made at his funeral, about the nurse she wanted to be, the kind who never walked past someone bleeding on a sidewalk, no matter the cost. If I sign this, the next girl doesn't stand a chance, Talia whispered, echoing words she'd spoken to herself 100 times in the last 3 days. Lorraine's expression softened with understanding. Talia took a breath, feeling something shift inside her, fear transforming into resolve, desperation into determination. Okay, let's fight. Relief flooded Lorraine's face. She extended her hand, and Talia shook it. Young black student with bloodstained scrubs still hanging in her closet, and wealthy white philanthropist who'd almost died on a sidewalk, now bound together by rage and justice. James pulled a chair to the coffee table, opening his tablet. First step, we file Freedom of Information requests for disciplinary records. Second, we reach out to student advocacy groups, alumni who face similar treatment. Third, we prepare a media statement and schedule a press conference. Destiny finally spoke up from the kitchen. What can I do? Lorraine turned, taking her in for the first time. Roommate, best friend, and I'm not letting Talia fight this alone. Lorraine smiled. Good. We'll need witnesses, character references, people who know Talia's story firsthand. For the next hour, they planned, sitting in a cramped apartment worth less than Lorraine's coat, mapping out a battle against an institution with millions in endowment funds and decades of reputation. But for the first time since she'd knelt on that sidewalk, Talia felt something other than despair. She felt like she had a chance. The email arrived on a Monday morning, 3 days after the helicopter landed in Talia's courtyard. Subject, confidential resolution meeting, urgent. Dear Miss Brooks, the Office of Student Affairs invites you to a confidential meeting to discuss a potential resolution to your current academic situation. We believe a mutually beneficial outcome can be reached. Tuesday, November 23rd, 10 a.m. Administration Building, Conference Room 3B. Please confirm your attendance. Sincerely, Dean Harold Whitfield. Talia stared at the message, something cold and sharp turning in her stomach. James, Lorraine's attorney, read it over her shoulder via video call, his expression hardening. They're panicking. Lorraine's FOIA requests hit the system 2 days ago, and now they want to settle before we find what we're looking for. Should I go? Absolutely. But you're not going alone. Tuesday, 10 a.m. Administration Building, Conference Room 3B. The boardroom was sleek and expensive. Mahogany table that could seat 20, leather chairs, framed photographs of distinguished alumni lining the walls, a window overlooking the manicured quad where students who still had futures walked between classes. Dean Whitfield sat at the head of the table in his perfect navy suit, flanked by the university's general counsel. A woman in her 50s, gray hair pulled into a severe bun, designer glasses, expression carved from granite. A third person sat to Whitfield's left, Dr. Patricia Chun, Director of Student Support Services, brought in presumably to soften the blow with institutional compassion. Talia sat across from them, James beside her, briefcase open, legal pad ready. Whitfield smiled, warm, paternal, utterly unconvincing. Miss Brooks, thank you for coming. I know recent events have been difficult. Talia said nothing. We've been reviewing your case, Dr. Chun interjected, voice gentle. And we want you to know that the university deeply values your contributions to our community. The General Counsel, nameplate read Sandra Hartwell, slid a folder across the table. We're prepared to offer a resolution that we believe addresses everyone's concerns. Talia opened the folder. Confidential Settlement Agreement. Her eyes scanned the terms. Private makeup examination for pharmacology 401 within 14 days. Partial scholarship restoration, $18,000 per year, pending continued good standing. Academic probation lifted upon successful exam completion. Access to university counseling and academic support services. Expedited clinical placement review. It was everything. Her degree, her future, her escape from poverty, all neatly packaged in 10 pages of legal text. Her hand shook as she turned to page 6. In consideration of the above, student agrees to execute a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement regarding all matters related to the November 18, 2025 incident and subsequent disciplinary proceedings. Student will issue a prepared public statement, attached as Exhibit A, praising the university's fairness and compassion. Student will refrain from all public commentary, media interviews, or legal action regarding this matter. Breach of these terms will result in immediate expulsion and financial liability for all scholarship funds previously dispersed. Talia flipped to Exhibit A. The prepared statement made her stomach turn. Words written by the university's PR team, designed to absolve them of responsibility while painting her as a grateful recipient of their mercy. I'm deeply thankful for the university's understanding and support during this difficult time. The administration has demonstrated remarkable compassion. Whitfield leaned forward, voice warm. Talia, we understand you've been under tremendous stress. This agreement allows you to move forward, complete your degree, and begin your nursing career without the burden of ongoing legal battles. We want what's best for you, Dr. Chen added. The last thing any of us wants is for your professional reputation to be damaged before your career even begins. Hartwell's gaze sharpened. I'll be frank, Miss Brooks. The nursing field is small, tight-knit. If you proceed with public litigation, other universities and hospitals will see you as litigious, difficult, someone who creates problems rather than solving them. The threat was subtle but clear. Sign this, or we'll make sure you never work as a nurse. James spoke for the first time. My client would like time to review. Of course, Whitfield said smoothly. But we'll need a response by Thursday. The offer expires after that. Talia sat on the futon, the settlement agreement spread before her, every word a lifeline and a noose simultaneously. Destiny paced behind her. It's a trap. They're trying to silence you. It's also my only chance at finishing my degree. At what cost? Talia didn't answer. She was calculating, the same impossible math she'd been running for days, except now the numbers actually worked. With partial scholarship restoration, she could afford tuition, could graduate, could take her boards, could become the nurse her father never had. All she had to do was stay silent. Her phone buzzed. An email from an address she didn't recognize. Subject: You deserve to know the truth. Attachments: university_internal_memos.pdf, 12 pages. Talia opened the file. The first page was an internal memo dated 6 months earlier. Dean Whitfield to the Student Affairs Committee. High risk admits from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. We continue to see elevated rates of emergency accommodation requests from this demographic. Recommend stricter enforcement of attendance policies to discourage pattern of excuse-making. The second page, an email chain about Talia specifically, dated the day after her missed exam. From Harold Whitfield to Sandra Hartwell. Subject: Brooks situation. Student missed pharmacology, final due to alleged medical emergency. Paramedics confirm she assisted at a scene, but this sets a dangerous precedent. If we accommodate her, every student with a sob story will expect special treatment. Recommend denial and swift disciplinary action to send a message. From Sandra Hartwell to Harold Whitfield. Agree. Her academic record shows prior incidents. Late tuition payment in 2023, complaint about clinical instructor Davidson, which we determined was unfounded. Email to professor questioning grading rubric. Pattern suggests unprofessional attitude. We can build a case for character concerns if needed. Talia's hands trembled as she scrolled through page after page of manufactured evidence. Minor incidents from years ago, reframed and weaponized, designed to destroy her credibility before she ever had a chance to defend herself. The late tuition payment. She'd been between paychecks, paid 3 days late with a $25 fee. The complaint about Davidson. He'd made a comment about urban students lacking discipline. She'd reported it through official channels and been told the matter was resolved. The email about grading. She'd politely asked a professor to clarify a rubric discrepancy. He'd responded helpfully. All of it now twisted into evidence of a pattern of unprofessionalism. The final page of the leaked document was a list, 12 names, all students of color, all denied emergency accommodations over the past 5 years for incidents ranging from family funerals to medical crises. Notes beside each name. Request denied. Policy exception not warranted. Appeal rejected. Insufficient documentation. Disciplinary action recommended. Some had been expelled. Others had dropped out. All had disappeared from the university's records, erased as thoroughly as if they'd never existed. Talia's phone rang. Lorraine, did you get the documents? You sent these? No, but I have a feeling someone inside the university wants this fight as much as we do. Lorraine's voice was tight. Have you made a decision about the settlement? Talia looked at the NDA on the table, then at the leaked memos on her laptop screen, at the names of students who'd accepted silence or been crushed by the system. If I sign this, Talia said slowly, what happens to the next student? The next girl who stops to help someone and gets punished for it. The pattern continues. The university wins. Compassion becomes a liability. And if I don't sign, Lorraine was quiet for a moment. Then it gets uglier. They'll fight dirty. They'll smear you publicly. They have resources, institutional power, decades of credibility. And I can't guarantee we'll win. Talia thought about her father, about the way he'd waited too long, feared the cost too much, died because he couldn't imagine asking for help. She thought about the 12 names on that list, ghosts of students who'd been erased for the crime of needing grace. She thought about the nurse she wanted to be, not the one who walked past people bleeding on sidewalks, but the one who stopped, who helped, who paid the cost because some things mattered more than safety. I'm not signing. Lorraine exhaled, pride and worry mixed together. You're sure? If I sign this, the next girl doesn't stand chance. Okay. Lorraine's voice strengthened. Then we go to war. James will draft our response. We'll schedule the press conference for Friday. And Talia? Yeah. Thank you for being brave enough to fight. After the call ended, Talia sat alone in the quiet apartment, staring at the settlement agreement that could have saved her. Then she picked up a pen and wrote across the first page in bold letters. Rejected. She took a photo, emailed it to Hartwell and Whitfield, and pressed send before fear could change her mind. Within minutes, her phone exploded with responses, threats disguised as warnings, promises of consequences, the machinery of institutional power revving up to crush her. But for the first time since she'd knelt on that sidewalk, Talia Brooks felt like herself again. Scared, broke, possibly destroying her future, but fighting. The data bomb dropped on a Wednesday morning. 5 years of disciplinary records. 87 pages of statistical analysis. Color-coded charts showing disparities so stark they couldn't be explained by anything other than systemic bias. Black students, 13.8% of enrollment, 34.2% of expulsions. White students, 61.3% of enrollment, 28.7% of expulsions. Emergency accommodations denied. 92% for students of color, 7% for white students. Emergency accommodations quietly granted without formal appeal. 89% white students, 3% students of color. And buried in the appendix, screenshots of Dean Whitfield's emails and internal chat logs, words dripping with contempt for the high-risk admits and sob story students he was supposed to serve. Lorraine's team leaked it simultaneously to the Washington Post, NPR, and 3 major education advocacy organizations. Within hours, social media exploded. Hashtag Justice for Talia trended nationally. Students organized protests. Alumni threatened to withhold donations. Faculty members who'd stayed silent for years suddenly found their voices, calling for Whitfield's resignation and systemic reform. And the Board of Trustees, panicking under the glare of national attention, scheduled an emergency clarification hearing, televised, public, unavoidable. Talia stood in front of the bathroom mirror, trying to rehearse the speech James had helped her write. "My name is Talia Brooks, and I..." Her voice cracked. She started over. "On November 18th, I made a choice." Her hand, "What right do I have to speak?" The thought looped through her mind. "I'm just a broke nursing student who got lucky. There are people who fought this system for years. Who am I to be the face of this?" A knock on a bathroom door. Destiny's voice. "Talia? You okay? I can't do this." The door opened. Destiny came in, sat on the edge of the tub. "Yes, you can. I'm not a leader. I'm not an activist. I just stopped to help someone." "Exactly. That's why people are listening." Destiny grabbed her hand. "You're not trying to be a hero. You're just trying to survive. And that's what makes this real." Friday, 2 p.m., University Auditorium. The auditorium was packed beyond capacity, students filling every seat, lining the walls, sitting cross-legged in the aisles. Faculty members stood in the back. Camera crews from CNN, local news, and student media set up along the sides. Protesters outside held signs. "Stop punishing compassion," and "Whitfield must go." The Board of Trustees sat on the stage, 12 people in business attire, expressions ranging from uncomfortable to outraged. Dean Whitfield and Sandra Hartwell occupied a table to the left, files stacked in front of them like fortifications. Lorraine sat in the front row, James beside her. Talia sat 2 seats away, trying to control her breathing, trying not to vomit. Dr. Margaret Shun, board chair, Asian-American woman in her 60s, distinguished professor emerita, called the hearing to order. This special session has been convened to address recent concerns regarding disciplinary policy and its application. We will hear from university administration, then open the floor to public testimony. Hartwell stood first, projecting calm authority. "Let me be clear. This university's policies are applied equally to all students, without regard to race, class, or background. The data being circulated online is misleading, taken out of context, and ignores the complexity of individual cases." She clicked to a PowerPoint slide showing aggregate statistics designed to obscure the disparities buried in the raw data. Every disciplinary decision is made based on documented policy violations, not student demographics. To suggest otherwise is irresponsible and... James stood. "May I?" Dr. Chin nodded. James walked to the podium with a laptop, connecting it to the projector. Hartwell's sanitized slides disappeared, replaced by the charts Lorraine's analysts had created color-coded, undeniable, devastating. This is 5 years of your disciplinary data, analyzed by independent statisticians. He clicked through slides showing racial breakdowns, accommodation denial rates, the emails calling students high risk and dismissing their emergencies as sob stories. The auditorium went silent. These aren't isolated incidents. This is a pattern. He pulled up Whitfield's email about Talia. If we accommodate her, every student with a sob story will expect special treatment. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Students turned to stare at Whitfield, who sat stone-faced, jaw clenched. And it's not just Miss Brooks, James continued. We have testimony from 12 other students, all of color, all denied accommodations for verified emergencies while their white classmates received quiet exceptions. Dr. Chin leaned forward. We'd like to hear from those students. One by one, they came to the microphone. Marcus Johnson, expelled 2022. My mother had a stroke. I missed 2 exams staying with her in the ICU. They denied my appeal and kicked me out 3 weeks before graduation. Priya Sharma, denied accommodation 2023. I was in a car accident on the way to my organic chemistry final. Paramedics took me to the ER. The university called it poor planning. Isaiah Williams, suspended 2024. My grandmother died. I flew home for the funeral, provided death certificate and flight receipts. They put me on academic probation and revoked my housing. Each story hit like a hammer. Students in the audience wiped tears. Faculty members stared at the stage with growing horror. Camera operators zoomed in on Whitfield's face, capturing his barely concealed rage. Then it was Talia's turn. She walked to the podium on legs that felt disconnected from her body. The microphone screeched feedback. 200 faces stared at her. Cameras blinked red. She looked down at her prepared speech and realized she couldn't read it. The words were someone else's, polished, safe, designed to be palatable. She folded the paper and set it aside. My name is Talia Brooks. Her voice shook. When I was 12, my father died from an infection that could have been treated if he'd gone to the doctor sooner. But he was scared. Scared of the bills. Scared of asking for help. So he waited too long. The room was silent. I became a nurse because I promised myself I'd never let someone suffer because they were too afraid to ask. And on November 18th, I saw a woman bleeding on a sidewalk while people walked past and filmed her instead of helping. She looked at Lorraine, who nodded encouragement. I had a choice. Take my exam and maybe graduate on time, or stop and save her life. And I chose, I will always choose to stop. Her voice strengthened. But the question I need you to answer is this. Are we training nurses to walk past dying people to protect their grades? Are we telling future doctors, social workers, teachers that compassion is a liability? That helping someone makes you unprofessional? She gestured to the students who'd testified before her. Because that's the message you sent to every one of us. And I'm not asking you to save just me. I'm asking you to fix the system that punishes people for doing the right thing. She stepped back from the microphone, legs shaking, heart hammering, certain she'd said it all wrong. The auditorium erupted in applause. Dr. Chun called for order. When the noise finally died down, she turned to the trustees. I move that we suspend the current attendance policy pending comprehensive review. That we reinstate Miss Brooks with full scholarship restoration and retroactive accommodation. And that we commission an independent investigation into disciplinary disparities with mandatory student oversight. Trustee David Hammond, black man in his 50s, civil rights attorney, silent for years, stood abruptly. I second, and I demand an immediate vote. On camera. On the record. Hartwell tried to object. This requires proper deliberation. We've deliberated for 5 years while students were being crushed, Hammond shot back. Vote. Now. Dr. Chin looked at her fellow trustees. All in favor. Hands rose across the stage. 8 trustees. Then 9. 10. Opposed. Whitfield's hand shot up, along with 2 others, alumni donors, old money, faces carved with contempt. Motion passes 10-3. The auditorium exploded, students screaming, crying, chanting Talia's name. Faculty members embraced. Protesters outside heard the news and roared. Talia stood frozen, destiny grabbing her in a crushing hug, Lorraine reaching across the seats to squeeze her hand, tears streaming down both their faces. In a single vote, her expulsion was erased, her scholarship restored, her future salvaged from the wreckage. But more than that, the policy that had crushed a dozen students before her was suspended. The pattern was broken. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, they'd won a battle. Talia looked at the stage, at Whitfield gathering his papers with stiff, furious movements, isolated and exposed. And she felt something unfamiliar blooming in her chest. Hope. The news cycle caught fire. Within 24 hours, every major network had replayed Talia's speech and the dramatic trustee vote. CNN ran a segment titled, "When Compassion Becomes Criminal." NPR interviewed former students who'd been expelled under similar policies. Twitter exploded with testimonies from nurses, EMTs, and teachers who'd faced impossible choices between duty and institutional rules. Alumni groups flooded the university with calls threatening to withhold millions in donations if reform stalled. Student organizations demanded Dean Whitfield's immediate resignation. Faculty members published an open letter supporting systemic change. And on Monday morning, Talia received an official letter from the Office of Academic Affairs. "Dear Miss Brooks, your disciplinary record has been expunged. Your scholarship is fully reinstated with a $5,000 annual stipend for living expenses. You are invited to join the newly formed Student Faculty Policy Committee, and the university will provide complimentary mental health support services. We look forward to your continued success." Talia stared at the letter, then at Destiny, who'd been reading over her shoulder. "They're terrified," Destiny said. "Good." 3 days after the hearing, the Board of Trustees invited Lorraine to a private lunch at the university club. Mahogany paneling, oil portraits of dead white men, waitstaff in black vests serving wine that cost more than Talia's monthly rent. Board Chair Margaret Chen offered Lorraine an honorary trustee position. "We'd be honored to have your guidance as we navigate these reforms. Your perspective would be invaluable in shaping the university's future approach to fairness and inclusion." Lorraine set down her water glass, expression polite but unmoved. "With respect, Dr. Chun, I've spent 30 years writing checks to institutions that promise change, endowing scholarships, funding diversity initiatives, attending galas where everyone congratulated themselves for their progressiveness while the actual structure stayed exactly the same." She leaned forward. "I'm not interested in being a token on your board, so you can point to me as evidence of reform while students keep getting crushed. If you want real change, empower the people who've been fighting this system from the inside, not wealthy donors who swoop in after the damage is done." Chen looked uncomfortable. "What are you proposing?" "I'm launching something different." 2 weeks later, Lorraine held a press conference, not at the university, but at a community center 3 blocks from Talia's apartment. "The Good Faith Fund," Lorraine announced to assembled reporters, "will provide legal support, emergency funding, and systemic advocacy for students punished for helping others in crisis. But this won't be another charity where wealthy donors control the decisions." She gestured to the people standing beside her. Talia, wearing a donated blazer over her nursing scrubs. Isaiah Williams, the student expelled for attending his grandmother's funeral. Marcus Johnson, kicked out 3 weeks before graduation. A public defender. A community organizer. A civil rights attorney. The fund will be governed by students, advocates, and community members as equals. My money seeds it, but they decide how it's used, who it helps, and what fights it takes on. A reporter called out, "How much are you committing?" $5 million to start. More if needed. Cameras flashed. Talia felt tears burning behind her eyes. Not gratitude for charity, but recognition that someone with power had finally chosen to share it rather than hoard it. The template spread like wildfire. Northwestern adopted a Good Samaritan accommodation clause within 2 weeks, guaranteeing flexible exam policies for verified emergency assistance. Georgetown followed. Then Boston University, UCLA, Emory. Activists used Lorraine's data analysis framework to file freedom of information requests at dozens of universities, uncovering similar patterns of discriminatory discipline. Class action lawsuits emerged. Student newspapers published exposés. Alumni organized pressure campaigns. And in Washington, Senator Rebecca Torres, former public defender, first-generation college graduate, reached out to Lorraine with a proposal. Talia had never been to Washington, had never imagined sitting in a senator's office, leather chairs and constitutional law books lining the walls, while staffers drafted legislation based on her story. Senator Torres leaned forward, sharp-eyed and focused. The Student Good Samaritan Act would tie federal education funding to 3 requirements: humane emergency accommodation policies, transparent reporting of disciplinary disparities, and independent student oversight of policy enforcement. She slid a draft across the table. Universities that receive federal money, which is nearly all of them, would have to guarantee that students can't be punished for verified emergency assistance. And they'd have to publicly report disciplinary data by race and class every year. Lorraine read through the provisions, James marking sections for revision. Talia just tried to absorb the surreal reality. Her missed exam, her choice on that sidewalk, was becoming federal law. "When can you introduce it?" Lorraine asked. "Next session. With your testimony and the data we've compiled, I think we have the votes." Talia adjusted her stethoscope, reviewing patient charts before morning rounds. 6 months since the hearing. 6 months since her life flipped from destruction to possibility. She was different now. More confident, quicker to speak up when policies didn't make sense, unafraid to challenge attending physicians who dismissed student concerns. A first-year nursing student named Maya approached nervously during break. "Talia, can I ask you something?" "Always. I missed my anatomy exam last week. I was driving to campus and saw a car accident on the highway. Rollover, driver unconscious. I stopped and helped until EMTs arrived, but now my professor says I failed the exam and there's no makeup policy." Talia's stomach tightened with familiar rage. "What do the deans say?" "I haven't reported it yet. I'm scared they'll kick me out." Talia pulled out her phone. "What's your dean's name?" "Dr. Patterson." "But call her. Right now. Tell her exactly what happened. And if she give you any pushback, you tell her to contact me, Lorraine Keaton, and the Student Good Samaritan Advocacy Network." Maya's eyes widened. "You really think?" "I know. Trust me." 3 days later, Maya sent Talia a screenshot of an email from Dean Patterson. "Dear Maya, after reviewing your case and the EMT documentation, we are granting a full accommodation under our emergency assistance policy. Your makeup exam is scheduled for next Tuesday. Thank you for stopping to help." Talia showed the email to Lorraine during their weekly Good Faith Fund meeting. Lorraine smiled. "One student at a time. That's how you change a system." "It's not enough," Talia said. Maya shouldn't have been scared to report it in the first place. No, but 2 years ago, she would have been expelled. Now she's getting a makeup exam and a thank you. Progress isn't perfect, but it's real. Talia stood at the window of her new place, still small, still in the same neighborhood, but walls freshly painted, no eviction notices, no terror in every bank statement. The sound of helicopter rotors echoed in the distance. She tensed, muscle memory from that November night when Lorraine descended into the courtyard like an avenging angel. But this time, the helicopter was just passing overhead, ferrying someone to the hospital 3 blocks away. Medical evacuation. Emergency transport. Someone being saved. The sound faded. Talia smiled. Her phone buzzed. A text from a student she'd mentored. "Got the makeup exam. Passed with an A. Thank you for teaching me. I didn't have to choose between helping and surviving." Talia looked at her hands. Steady, purposeful, no blood under the nails, no fear in her chest. These were the hands that had stopped on a sidewalk one cold November morning, that had pressed against a stranger's wound while her own future bled out, that had fought back when the system tried to punish her for choosing compassion. She grabbed her bag and stepped out into the evening, heading for a shift at the hospital. The same route, the same streets. But everything was different now. Because of one choice on one sidewalk, dozens of universities had changed their policies. Hundreds of students had been protected. Federal legislation was winding through Congress. And somewhere, a nursing student who'd face an impossible choice tomorrow would have support Talia never had. No one should ever again have to choose between saving a life and saving their own future. And because a broke black nursing student named Talia Brooks knelt in blood outside a pharmacy and refused to walk away because she fought when the system tried to erase her, fewer people would. Not perfect, not finished, but better. And that was enough to keep walking forward. Talia's story didn't end when she walked out of that apartment. It's still being written every time a student chooses compassion over compliance and doesn't get destroyed for it. But here's the truth. If you watched this whole story and felt something, but you don't subscribe or comment your favorite part below, the algorithm buries it and the next person who needs this story never finds it. So I'm asking you directly, what part hit you hardest? Was it when Talia knelt in blood, knowing her future was bleeding out? When Lorraine stepped out of that helicopter? When the trustees voted and everything flipped? Tell me in the comments, smash that subscribe button, and help me make sure no one else has to choose between saving a life and saving their own future. Because Talia fought for students she'll never meet. The least we can do is make sure her story reaches them.